Now, for the past couple of years, give or take, the Warriors dens have been on the highlights of my months, which, in my head, yeah, it sounds pretty depressing, but let me have this. It's a time where I get to talk to you, my community that supports me, and watch the developers live on stream together. Now, these Warriors dens are a very hot topic, where seemingly the entire Warriors den is going well, but then one patch note actually gives Ranking Guard insta-kill fucking heavy attacks that actually data mine your graphics card, because why not? The devs were feeling adventurous that day. Or they have a very handsome man indulge you in his very healthy obsession with the water physics. Seriously, I love that guy. Get him back on the den. But sometimes the dev team gives the community exactly what everyone wants, and just like in World War I, where soldiers would walk into no man's land and celebrate Christmas together, the For Honor community can celebrate the patch notes together. And I'm not going through the entire Warriors den. To be quick, the Orochi skin looks really fucking good. The team behind the really disgusting looking arm deserves a right pat on the back for a more than good job well done. Well, yes, it is a second Orochi skin, while the other half of the faction doesn't still have one. The first skin was fucking poo-poo fucking dog shit, so the first one I'm okay with. Anyways, before we jump into these 7 fucking pages of patch notes, man, saying that just brings a tear to my eye, reliving 2017 all over again. If you like what you're watching and keep playing back, hit that sub button. On a real note, I've been able to interact with a lot of you in either Twitch chats or in-game, and seriously, it means a lot to see how kind all of you are. Anyways, let's get right to it. We'll be splitting each timestamp into their 7 pages, talking about each change, and just in case you didn't understand them live, give detailed examples on what the buffs and nerfs are supposed to actually do. I have clips the day before and the day after to compare each and every situation where the buff and nerf would differ in gameplay, starting with page 1. Starting off with something I think the entire For Honor community was happy to see was Lawbringer finally getting his increasingly annoying dodge bash toned down to a more understandable state. Before, the move had so much side movement and momentum, it would outspace attacks it had no business in outspacing. For example, Warren Heavy Feint to Zone should have resulted in a hit if the Lawbringer dodges on his heavy timing, but had just enough side movement to dodge both attacks. In reality, this should never happen again. Next was Centurion, and honestly, I'm all for buffing this hero, but surprisingly this buff was more quality of life than actual improvement to the kit. Now, I cannot recall any moment where I was getting outspaced, but seemingly if you stepped back or rolled away from a Centurion, he could never go far enough to punish properly even if he made the right read to feint it. Now, if Centurion feints his punch, he should have enough forward movement to catch people walking away from him. In reality, this buff should not be that noticeable playing the game, but just like Armush's heavy attacks going a bit farther, it's going to help a lot.
But you were mid-roll for that.
And then lastly, for page 1 was a nerf to BP. Now, BP mains are still seething with how Ubisoft gutted their zone attack, and instead of buffing it by lowering the stamina cost, they salted the wound by giving it 1 damage and said, hey look, it's fixed. But just like Centurion, this nerf will not be very visible at times. Bulwark Slash now has a guard break vulnerability of 200 milliseconds. When playing BP, you could make a prediction if your opponent will guard break you. You can follow this up with a Bulwark Slash and counter the guard break. Bulwark Slash in its entirety already has guard break vulnerability, but this nerf will make this move less usable as an option select prediction. Again, Bulwark Slash won't be that noticeable unless you're a meta-human who could react to a 100 to 200 MS difference, but please, for the love of God, the grass is truly greener outside. Patch 2 of the patch notes is where I feel very indifferent and frustrated. Page 2 just kind of makes no sense to me, and all of these heroes really could have gone unchanged and nothing would have been different. Same could not be said for Shaman though, a simple buff that reduced their stamina cost on Bash. Shaman's Bash is a really hard thing to actually use in a fight. It's just not very good. Sometimes you can't even get your light attack punish off of it, and lastly, it just feels truly impractical to use. The entire fight in the background shows me not even thinking about using it. With Shaman's stamina cost being reduced, this could actually make me want to use it, but in reality, Shaman is a woman hero, and I can't stand to look at women for more than 10 minutes without being scared to death. But here's how we take a weird turn. Highlander would see a nerf, but not to anything about his offensive stance, but actually to his defensive stance, something I think nobody had a real issue with. The nerf states that Highlander's defensive chain lights would see a damage nerf from 15 through 13. Look, I'm not a person who shames players for not being able to counter a move, but Highlander chain lights are getting hit by a parked fucking car. Sure, it might happen once in your life, but it really shouldn't happen more than once. And lastly, Warlord would receive a nerf. Crazy how this hero has seen no buffs for the past 5 years of his life, but they always find something to nerf at least once every year. The devs are on this crusade of removing stamina damage from the game, and this leaves players not very happy about it. Warlord would lose his stamina damage on his guard break punish because they felt like being a wall spot was enough of a punish, which I can definitely understand. You don't want to over punish players, especially in really small duel maps, but what I don't agree with is removing the stun effect. stun effects in this game are slowly getting removed over and over and over again. Raider Stampede Charge, Kensei Back Throw, and Old Lawbringer Top Heavy Stun Effect were really cool flavor text. Now, other than Lawbringers, none of these stuns actually contributed to any advantage. The same could be said about Warlord's Wall Splat, but this also being removed is just not fun. I'm not much of a fan of stripping unique mechanics that didn't provide any advantage for the sake of just removing them. Then there's the revenge changes. I've rewritten this like 6 to 7 times because I just don't know what to think about it. Some people like it, some people don't. The people that normally don't like it are the casuals, while the people that do like it are the competitive players that understand revenge a bit more. Casual players look at it and see it as a nerf to revenge, which that's what I kind of see it as. I think making revenge less punishing is just not a way to balance it. But the problem is that apparently in competitive, as I've talked to many competitive players, that revenge is actually a very, very strong mechanic because of the stalling meta. If you play casually, that's never been the case. The problem with revenge is that they can't balance it between the casual and competitive side without pissing one or the other off. It's a truly just impossible thing to want to change, but maybe a ranked Dominion would have fixed this issue, so you can have added those revenge changes to ranked Dominion instead and had casual Dominion stay with the casual revenge system just for, you know, an added bit of skill expression. Overall, I'm still against this, but I'm not going to say that other people that like it are wrong. I could just be placeboed into thinking it was bad because, I don't know, again, I'm a casual player at heart. I could be wrong. I'm not always right. I'm not like fucking Jesus or something. Part 3 is a fucking roller coaster, and it starts off pretty good as expected. Yorm would say a buff, something he hasn't seen since initial rework to the game. And that buff would go to his Hammer Slam's damage from 26 to 30. Seeing as he's lost all his hyper armor, the move felt quite underwhelming, but with this increase of damage, it will make it a lot more fun and viable to use in chain. And just like a roller coaster, it goes right down because look at that! Yeah, that's true, they need to... Kensei! Oh my god, they nerfed him! Oh my god!
That puts him on baseline.
Okay, memes aside, it's actually a rebalance, gaining 5 max health for a trade-off of 2 damage, but I think this is quite stupid. Every Vanguard before him has had 130 HP to begin with, and while I was really hoping we would see a buff to his health, I wanted to see more than just that for Kensei. Kensei is the slowest hero in the game, running at a horridly slow 6 meters a second, when again, every other Vanguard is at 6.5. I see nothing wrong in 34 damage unblockables on Kensei. While yes, it's only a 2 damage nerf, it still feels unnecessary, and the 3 Kensei mains right now are probably really contemplating life. But again, in the spirit of a roller coaster, it always ends in peak, and it's a nerf to Orochi. The most frustrating thing about Orochi is how untouchable he can be in the hands of a good player, and that's because of zone attack into dodge cancel. The zone has an enormous hitbox with a medium hit stun apply, making it the safest thing in his kit. So they decided to lower the hitbox to help it alleviate frustration and lower his survivability hand in hand. Now I must say for page 4 and onward, it's just all good news. Like walking into your kitchen and seeing a fresh steak and pork chop dinner waiting for you when you get home. Kyoshin would see a nerf to his Kaze Cut light damage. I think this is almost right, but still a little bit off. Kyoshin's Kaze Cut damage isn't the true issue. I think it's more or less his first feat's bleed damage. This nerf is going to hurt him in both duels and fours, but I feel like it's an unnecessary change for him in duels. Overall, I'm glad he's getting nerfed. I love playing him, but, you know, I play in a casual experience, and he is still quite good. Shaolin would see another nerf to his kit, and again, it's another damage nerf. This would be to his chained light attacks. When he had all 3 light attacks after a bash, not only do they revenge lock and confirm damage for your teammates, but also do a very fair amount of damage with a total coming out to 18. Overall, this did so much already, seeing a slight damage nerf to his 2nd and 3rd light is definitely a welcome change. Zen Hill probably sees the most interesting buff in the entire patch notes. Upon superior block on top attacks, your heavy unblockable will do 30 damage. Now you might think, holy shit, 30 damage is insane. Well, this move is not confirmed and 100% parryable. You're trading confirmed damage from the superior block light attack to the potential higher damage of the superior block heavy instead. It's cool to have unconfirmed punishes be buffed to incentivize actually using them instead of the free damage moves. Time for something completely undocumented and left out of the patch notes, and that is block on dodge. If you don't remember block on dodge, it was something that was removed from For Honor a while ago, and people weren't really happy about it. Basically, when you dodge in a direction, you gain block frames for 200 milliseconds in the direction that you had dodged. This was to counter things like bash undodgeable confirm ganks, giving it some sort of counterplay. Nowadays, I think I'm fine with this being stayed in the game, but I will not lie, there's a lot of times I'm getting away with shit that I really shouldn't be getting away from with the dodge frames. Dodge on block. Page 5 starts off with a certified banger. Pirate nerf right after her buff. Following Pirate's last buff, making her unblockable and impossible to react to at the highest levels of play, accidentally allowed her to get forward heavy on confirmed heavy parry. They delayed this move by 33 ms to make sure she actually can't get it off heavy parry anymore. It's gonna be a lot like Raider's Zone after Stampede Charge, where it's actually not a confirmed attack, but it's what I call funny. And behind her is Hatoon with a slight buff to her pinning light attack. The reason you'd use light attack is very small. You keep frame advantage over the heavy attack and you allow yourself to dodge cancel, but it's never enough to justify it over the heavy attack or even zone option. So they buffed it by 1 damage, but the bigger buff behind it was reducing her zone attack damage by 10, or stamina by 10. Hatoon is one of the only heroes left in the game with an unguard breakable feintable zone that can be used a lot after her heavy pin, so reducing her stamina makes it even more of a good move. Page 6 starts heavy and it's a nerf to Virtuoso. Now you either cheered, gave me your pants, or gave me the Front Rants response of, well, she's not nerfed enough until she's removed from the game. But the nerf would be to her dodge attack and how fast it comes out. Something I agreed was something that was a tad too fast, especially on target swap. They would increase the time from 533 to 600 ms, making these dodge attacks way more reactable and should reduce frustration by a decent margin, but it's still Virtuoso, so... And if your pants weren't soiled already, then look at that. Conquer gets another buff. Call the people because it's actually a buff this time. Conqueror's roll catch with extreme problems on launch was really mocked, but Ubisoft would ultimately buff this move to actually do what it's meant to do, and even more by giving it delayable frames, allowing Conqueror to have more access by using his roll catch like every other hero. I'm not praising them for fixing something that shouldn't have needed to be fixed in the first place, but it's still good enough to say thank you. And finally, page 7. But before we get into that, I have some bad news, gentlemen. The funny spikes on the shard are no more. Let's take a quick moment of silence.
See the dust that's just forming on my the end?
Yeah. Alright, now that sad news is out of the way, time for one of the biggest changes coming to many heroes, and it's their forward dodge heavy attacks guard break vulnerability. Heroes like Conk, Yorm, Shaolin, Shinobi, and Hatoon all have feintable forward dodges used to bait out bad options from your opponents or straight up option selects to trump guard break attempts. This will do insane amounts of work by increasing them from 100 to 200 ms, alleviating frustration when it comes to fighting Yorm, for example. Now he can't just stand there and throw himself at you, beating all of your options. And if I were to leave this video with one statement, it's this. The devs are human. They're not perfect in any way, shape, or form, and they do make mistakes. Some mistakes can be easily avoided and really shouldn't have existed in the first place, but at least they strive in correcting them where other companies would tell their player base to suck it up and get used to it. I'm not saying meet ride Ubisoft Montreal, but treat them how you'd want to be treated. Anyways, I love you guys. Have a good day.